Now we have with us Steve Quayle from stevequayle.com and Alex Wilson. You've heard me talking about him many times. Alex Wilson, for those people who are looking at what's going on in the United States and thinking about alternatives, hey, what about a retirement home, or what about a bug out location? If you've thought of that and more, well, Alex Wilson will be addressing those issues and more. So I'm going to turn this part over to Steve Quayle, and Steve can introduce Alex. And I know that there's some common interest there. Alex, of course, has been on our program before, and he's talked about his company, Precious Timber, the initiatives, the objectives. And let me tell you something, it's a cool thing. So with that, Steve, go ahead, sir, take it. And I'm just going to yield to you.
Well, thank you. Now, interestingly enough, Doug, I spoke with Alex, I think, 90 minutes, and not an exaggeration. We found we do have a lot in common. But one of the things that blew my mind about Alex and Precious Timber was the fact that here's a guy that not only is basically growing, trees, if you will, planting trees, harvesting trees, coconuts, which is the hottest thing in the world right now, but here's a guy that goes into a country and builds an infrastructure that benefits the people. That is so unusual. And I thought, now I got to talk to Alex more about this because it's a pretty incredible thing. So he's a CEO, Chief Executive Officer of Precious Timber, and he basically is, and this is why I guess I identify so much, to start with, he was a one-man band with maybe a two-man band with a very, very amazing partner. But his strategic vision for his company focuses on three fundamentals: pillars, people, planet, and profit. So what was interesting to me, and this is where if you see American expansionism, I love the United States when we do things right. Obviously, I point out when we do things wrong. So I wanted to interview Alex because his experience in both international and multi-industry expression in the strategic corporate growth management operations. I mean, this is a guy that you can learn a lot from. One of the headlines on Drudge the other day is "Small Business Has Hope Again." Well, I don't know the timing that hope presents itself, but Alex is involved in basically land acquisition. He's involved in helping people get a financial return over a long period of time, and I'll let him explain that. Alex, nice to have you with me, and let's start out with your business and personal mission, because again, I enjoyed our talk. I hope you did, and to me it was fascinating and mutually informative.
Hey, thanks. Certainly, both Doug and you, Steve. I too did enjoy that initial conversation that we had. I remember saying to you that I was busy that morning, and you said, "I am too. We'll only be on for a minute or two." And of course, an hour and a half later, we were still at it.
Yeah.
I've been a very blessed individual, most definitely. First of all, born and raised in the UK, took a little backpack and stuck it on my back at 17. Wanted to experience another part of the world. I was stuck right in the middle of the UK, where it's nothing but factories. And I used to joke as a high school student that the town went dark at 2:00 in the afternoon because of the chimneys were pumping out so much smoke. But anyway, long story short, 9 years, 72 countries. Never really did pay for any passage. I always was able to talk my way onto somebody's bus or somebody's truck or somebody's plane or somebody's boat. And I end up in the U.S. in 1986, and I meet this surfer guy. He's got his own construction firm. He became my first immediate friend here in the U.S. I've known Ken, who's now my business partner, for 30 years, of course, now. And what a blessing it is to meet someone like him that's probably the most generous person I've ever met. He serves humanity. He's not only, every time I can't find him, he's either inside of a jail cell helping a guy out, he's inside of a hospital helping a guy out, whether they're on drugs or whether they're on alcohol. He's just that kind of a guy. In 1999, I'm reading an investment newsletter that I'd subscribed to, and the publisher, Steve, was talking about Nicaragua. Now, Americans, they've got a pretty darn close affiliation to Nicaragua because the U.S. Has sponsored Nicaragua for a long time. U.S. Funded Nicaragua's dictatorship from the mid-1800s all the way through to the mid-1900s with the Somozas. But most of us will remember the 1970s, late 70s, and early 80s when Nicaragua was trying to free itself from the shackles of that dictatorship, the Somozas. And, of course, Ronald Reagan came along with the Contras. And so on the television here in the U.S. during the 80s, you'd probably remember the Contra-Sandinista sort of battle.
Yes.
Well, I didn't know much about that when I got to the States. Remember those years, I had a backpack on. I was going either through, I may have been in China, I may have been in Vietnam, I may have been in New Zealand. Wherever I was around the world, I wasn't listening to the news or following the news. I was a kid. I was just wanting to go to the next town and the next place to build up this great a mound of photographs, and I used to every day keep a daily diary. And so I've got all of these books and things now that I sometimes sort of sit there with my kids and they ask, Dad, what were you doing today? 42 years ago kind of thing. But Ken had been to Nicaragua. Ken had surfed Costa Rica, Panama, Nicaragua, Guatemala, San Salvador. He's a surfer. He works hard, and as a young kid, he would surf. And the story that I read was kind of fascinating to me as an entrepreneur. The story said basically this, that Nicaragua had freed itself from the shackles of the dictator in 1989. They became a democracy with the help of the U.S. putting together their constitution. And for the first time in 1989, Nicaraguans had a chance to vote. They actually could put a check mark by their name and say, hey, here's who we want to run our country for the first time. And from that moment until 1999, when I learned about it, so from 89 to 99, that was a 10-year period where nothing really was reported on Nicaragua. However, there was a remarkable transformation that was taking place. I took a trip down there with Ken and found the most peaceful, caring, kind population that had gone from being 100%, almost 100% uneducated population because the Somoza regime was not really allowing people to get an education, all the way to a population in 1999 to 70% educated, literate. Today it's 97% literate. But the opportunity was reminding me, and here I was in Huntington Beach, California, it was reminding me of how those in the East went west in the early 1700s and early 1800s, and how those in the East said, what are you going west for? And so it was like a covered wagon opportunity. And you got down there, guys, and I'm telling you, first thing that hit me was the jaw-dropping beauty of that Pacific coastline, like Southern California, but with much more fervent green tropics. And this is what kind of hit home quickly for me. The real estate was fee simple available to any foreign national, any foreign corporation. In other words, whether you were Nicaraguan or American or English or Spanish or Jewish or whatever, you could own the real estate in your name as a foreigner, with First American Title Insurance Company opening up an office in the capital city, Managua. This is 1999, 2000, when no one was thinking of going to Nicaragua. I came home and I told my wife about it, and she said, honey, you must have lost your mind.
Typical wife's response.
Well, I had lost my mind. I'd fallen in love, so I went back. Ken joined me. We purchased a piece of property, not for any other reason than we found that ourselves loving the country. Ken wanted to go have a little, put a little tent up somewhere, or maybe go surfing on it once in a blue moon. I bought it, to be honest with you, because I thought, sometime in the distant future, when my kids are my age, maybe that part of the world will be worth something. Well, it wasn't too short afterwards where the Condé Nast Traveler magazine, New York Times, LA Times, started writing about Nicaragua and its potential to become another tourist destination. And let me fast forward now, 2017. Nicaragua has become an unbelievably transforming democracy. In fact, last year we had 1.4 million tourists. It's no longer a secret. It's absolutely a stunning, remarkable place to be. And it's still somewhat of a unheard of location. But what's great is that the Nicaraguans are now getting to enjoy some of the things that maybe some of us have been so used to. I know there's all of this talk about being fair across the world, but let me tell you, Nicaragua is a great place to go. It's a fantastic place to escape to. We've been very fortunate and blessed because of the business. We ended up starting a business. We started a business to create jobs for Nicaraguans. We've been able to do that successfully. Thousands of jobs have been connected to us over the course of the last 16 years. So it's a wonderful story, and I'm really honored that you have invited me on to help you guys learn about it, but also share it to your audience.
Well, thank you. And again, I think a lot of people have misconceptions of Nicaragua based on the Sandinistas, based on everything, that was going on down there. Share with, and let's go directly to coconuts because, number one, share what you're doing with coconuts because I find this fascinating. More and more they're finding that coconuts, the lauric and caprylic acid in coconuts are good for dementia. And now coconuts, there's coconut water, there's coconut flour, coconut sugar. Let's talk about coconuts and we'll work backwards and get to the timber. But I want you to deal with coconuts because you're the first guy I know that number one has a coconut plantation and makes it available for others to own their own plantation. And we're talking small depending on the level or scale of investment. But let's talk about coconuts first because you're primarily a timber guy. And how did you get in the coconut business? Because, listen, I have a wife who's a health and she's really smart and informed. I would do a lot better if I would listen to her, but call it whatever you want to call it. But everything she owns in her fridge is coconut. Everything we eat is coconut. Seriously, coconut this, coconut that, coconut milk, coconut power, coconut flour. I mean, you name it. So share your coconut story because, again, there is a lesson in the coconut, not just a lime in the coconut, but a lesson. Will you share that, please?
Yeah, absolutely. It sounds like your wife and my wife are probably sisters from another mother or something, because that's how it started with me. And I have this plaque on my, I have this plate in the kitchen, by the way, which my father gave me. It basically says I'm the boss in my house, and I have my wife's permission to say so. But anyway, it was my wife and my daughter. 4, 5, 6, 7 years ago, my daughter came home at about 13 years of age saying, "Mom, I've got this acne starting, and my friend says put coconut oil on my skin and it'll clear up." And of course, my eyes rolled around 300 times in my head because I'm living when I'm in the U.S., I'm on the West Coast. I'm in Southern California and now south of L.A., and it's all kind of wacky and wonderful here, and people put all kinds of stuff on their bodies. So I'm kind of hum-ha, and are you guys crazy? But lo and behold, Mom bought some coconut oil from some store, and then it went on the face, and 3 weeks later there was no acne. And so it wasn't a week later before, just like you, there was coconut milk, and there was coconut cream, and there was coconut coffee, and there's coconut, shampoo, and I'm trying to get my cereal in the morning, and I can't, no longer put any milk on it. I have to drink milk that tastes like coconut. And I went into my home office that morning after mumbling and scumbling over why can't I just get some real milk. My phone rings, and it's someone from the Dominican Republic that had found our timber site online, and he was a citrus buyer that exports and imports across the world, and he's asking me if I knew of anyone in the country, in the country of Nicaragua where we're located, that was growing coconuts. I actually didn't know anyone. I mean, my business partner Ken has a stepfather that has a half a dozen trees on his little abode, but no one's was doing it commercially. But the thing that got me before I hung up the phone with this guy was he said, "Well, if you ever hear of anything, I'm really at a loss because I need a lot more coconuts to fill the orders." And I said, "Well, what kind of orders are you looking at?" He said, "Well, if I could get 20,000 coconuts a day from you, I'd be very, very happy." And I go, "What? 20,000 a day?" So the call didn't end as quickly as I thought it would do, and I sat and listened to him educate me on coconuts. I went straight to the internet, and oh my gosh, you're right. It started out, of course, I remember it as a child, suntan lotion, maybe coconut macaroons at grandma's house. But today, literally thousands upon thousands of different products across uncorrelated industries, and I'll just name some to give you an idea. It's not just the food products that we're probably familiar with, like coconut butter and coconut cream and coconut sort of powders and flours. But today, it's gone all the way to coconut biofuel. Richard Branson, for example, flew a jumbo jet, a 747, from London to Amsterdam on a coconut biofuel. So it's not just him, it's other airlines doing it too. Activated carbon, the most effective activated carbon on the planet for water filtration, other kinds of filtration, and the U.S. happens to be the number one consumer of activated carbon, comes from the shell of a coconut. I'm in Bora Bora several years ago, 3-4 years ago, on vacation at the Intercontinental Hotel. They have a day out for the kids to do all these different things, and Dad was getting a little bored, and so I took a tour of the hotel. They had a biofuel, a coconut biofuel electrical generation facility, and so we can go down the list. I mean, we can add on things like fossil fuels, charcoal. Today, even something that's amazingly new and being studied are the real health benefits, not just those that are, that end up in the health food store that sometimes are questionable. But I'm talking scientific studies are currently being undertaken on the medium chain triglyceride that's found inside of coconut oil. Most of us have probably seen coconut oil on the shelves of supermarkets right next to the coconut milk maybe, or next to the coconut cream cookies. But the medical industry has found that there's marketable evidence now. It's still under clinical trials. It's not completed yet. But for Alzheimer's patients, dementia.
Absolutely.
And so this is the thing that kind of got me interested in it, because here I am in the Central American tropics, putting people to work. Our business is based, as you said, on people first, planet second, profit third. We're a for-profit company, but I happen to be blessed and go to Nicaragua when no one was going, said yes to purchasing land, ended up backing into the timber business. I was really there to buy some property for myself. I ended up buying some for myself, and it's like everything in life. When you found something secretive, you don't want to tell anybody, but you tell your best friend who tells his best friend who tells his best friend, and before you know it, people are saying, "Hey, I want to go." So we ended up in the construction world for a while, but then when we backed into agriculture, and that's a complete other story, but back to the coconut has got, it's already amazingly popular, but it's amazingly popular primarily to the islanders. The islanders have lived on coconuts for centuries, but to Westerners like us, it's right now only Europe and America, but coconut water has gone from being nothing to a industry that rivals orange juice sales.
Absolutely. And I got to share something real quick. I've had a sponsor for close to 5 years, Inner Health, Inner Foods, Steve St. Clair, and they make a thing called Coco Mojo. which is kind of very cool. It's coconut, powder and chocolate, and I love that stuff. And I just want to say one thing about MCT, medium chain triglycerides. I take a spoonful of that, every day, and when you just read about the benefits. Now, look, I'm not trying to give anybody health information, neither are you, but I know this. There are case studies of people that have onset dementia, and onset Alzheimer's that have had some remarkable, if you will, turnaround. So, MCT, I don't use a long name, but I think it's fascinating. By the way, you left out one really good product. That's coconut ice cream.
Yes. Yeah.
Continue. I just had to throw my 2 cents in because I'm a coconut guy.
Well, anything covered in chocolate or coconut, I love too. In any event, but no, it's a really fascinating world. So 3 years ago, my partner and I, after planting many thousands of acres of very tropical, valuable, precious hardwoods, the wood business, the side of the wood business that we're in, is not what you find primarily up here in North America, which is 2x4s and plywood from softwoods, pine, Douglas fir. We're in the very valuable, very deep, rich cherries and mahoganies and things like that. But for us to add coconuts, because the timber space is very safe, it's very non-cyclical. It's not like the stock market. It's not like real estate. It's not like bonds. A tree grows. Mother Nature knows what she's doing. God created the planet. We don't have to worry about economic cycles or whether there's a president being elected or there's a war going on somewhere over here. If you're invested in timber, for example, like the billionaires are, by the way, Steve, where you live, I'm sure you're looking at a whole bunch of lumber all around you. And
let's just say, Ted Turner owns a lot of land in Montana, and I can go up on my deck and see literally 125,000 acres, not all of it, of course, at once, from the Gallatin River to the Madison River, Madison Valley, those familiar, and, a lot of, and this is important because, you're seeing this in real time, real world, but a lot of billionaires have come to Montana, and they basically rent a helicopter from a friend of mine who has service. You know what they're looking for? They're looking for timberland, and they're literally flying hours a day. They have my friend, basically, they've done their homework. They know who owns what. They'll land the helicopter. They'll get on the phone. Obviously, some actually do use sat phones. Obviously, there are places in Montana that don't have cell phone coverage. And, Alex, it seems like there's a panic on to acquire as much timber as possible. Is that accurate from your perspective?
Well, you used the word billionaire. I wrote a report that's free to anyone that goes on our website, PreciousTimber.com. It's called The Billionaire's Secret. When I first learned about timber, I had no clue that timber was an asset class in addition to being a lumber source. There's actually an asset class. You have the stock market, you have real estate, got all these different asset classes. And the NCREIF Timberland Index, NCREIF, the NCREIF Timberland Index in the U.S. has tracked the performance of timber since the early 80s. And it's the billionaires. You talked about Ted Turner. Ted Turner is the second largest timber owner and landowner in the U.S., and he made his billions in media. So did John Malone, the largest timber owner. He's from Comcast, and now you've got all of the new ones, all of the new younger ones like Jack Ma and Jeff Bezos. Why is timber a billionaire's secret? Well, it's very simple, Steve. Timber is an asset space that is non-cyclical. Mother Nature is in control of the growth. In other words, if you put $1 in the ground, as opposed to $1 into the stock market or $1 into real estate or whatever it is you're investing in, $1 into the ground is going to be managed by Mother Nature.
Alex,
Mother Nature knows what you...
I'm sorry, I got to interrupt you right there. We're up against a hard break at the bottom of the hour. Folks, you're listening to Steve Quayle, stevequayle.com, Alex Wilson, PreciousTimber.com. Folks, we're going to be right back. Stay right where you're at. And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to this edition of the Hagman and Hagman Report. Steve Quayle, stevequayle.com, Alex Wilson from Precious Timber. You've heard us talking about Precious Timber, and now we've got the man behind Precious Timber on with Steve Quayle. So many, again, this is a show about solutions and about answers and about initiative. How about the 3 Ps, people, planet, and profit? There's so much to talk about, so little time, so I'm not going to I'm not going to waste any time. I'm going to kick it right back to Steve. And I just want to thank Mr. Wilson for coming on tonight. And also, Steve, thank you for coming on. I know both of you had extremely busy schedules, but this is good to talk about this and to really dig deep into what's taking place with respect to this particular industry. Steve, go ahead, sir. Steve, I don't know if I cut you off, or are you there?
No. Oh, I'm sorry. I was going to tell everyone they can go on my website, the Precious Timber banner, click on it, because Alex is offering basically his Secrets of Wealth Profit Kit free. And also there's a whole lot of a plethora of information there. And we're talking about, I'm in Montana, he's in Southern California, but Nicaragua. But Alex, too, before we, lose our time, I would like you to share kind of how people, benefit, obviously, from the timberland, the coconuts, and even you sell land for a community that you're building or have built in Nicaragua, quite candidly, because a lot of people have. Share where you've been, because people ask me about Panama. They ask me about Costa Rica, and I've never been to either one. I just want to make that clear. They ask me about, Belize. Why don't you share your experience, real quickly, and then talk about the availability of property that you sell, too, because you guys basically have your hat in the ringer, and you got in earlier than everybody, so you offer some amazing deals. By the way, I watch International Homes or whatever it is on HDTV sometimes, and I mean the beaches in Nicaragua, if you're used to Hawaii as I am and the Caribbean beaches, I'm telling you what, Nicaragua has some amazing stuff. So would you just touch on that too, because you basically have a three-pronged attack on helping people preserve wealth, ensure generational wealth. And the nice thing is, ladies and gentlemen, no matter what happens to the economy in the U.S., it's always nice to have something going on somewhere that has value. So will you share that, sir?
Absolutely. Plan B is a good idea. Well, my partner Ken moved. He's not coming home. He's all done. He's been living in Nicaragua now on the southern border, right there next to Costa Rica. I think 2002 is when he last came to the U.S. As a resident. He hasn't expatriated, but he's happy. He's got a family, and of course we have a very large operation where we support a lot of families. These people have. Let me tell you. I tell people all the time that it was a blessing for us. We've done a lot of great things down there. You would have done it. Anyone who would have done it when you see the kindness and the joy that these people bring you. But we've been the ones that have been benefited the most. Our business has exploded. Our friendships have been poured over with a lot of love, a lot of great sort of camaraderie. But we started the business based upon the fact that we saw the need, just like we helped start the very first public lending library, just like the fact that we had learned not too long ago that less than half the kids at school have a chair to sit on. We started making school chairs with little desks and donating them to classrooms. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of kids now all across the region have got school chairs, just like we did when it was time to help a little Barrio Street out where they had a lot of black water problems and no sewage. We put that in and fixed roads. So it's the kind of stuff that anyone would do. I'm not blowing my own trumpet, but when you're asking me to talk about Nicaragua and the region, I have traveled. I've gone through all of Central and South America, and I can tell you it's not my not just my personal experience, but the world is recognizing it now, especially Nicaragua. And first of all, let's talk about the region of Central America, because Nicaragua sits in Central America, not South America. It's very close to the U.S., and it's got as I said earlier in the conversation this evening, that Nicaragua and the U.S. has had a long-term relationship. And in the 80s, a lot of Nicaraguans came to the U.S., to Miami and to L.A. Most of those people are going back home now. They're going back home because Nicaragua's booming. Now, our economy has sputtered along for quite some time, but Nicaragua's economy since the 2008 crash has grown at 5.1% GDP growth, not just one year, every single year since 2008. So it is a booming economy where people are doing much, much better. It's still a third world nation, but they're coming a long way. Here's the statistic that really is flabbergasting, and that's the word for it. According to the World Bank and according to the IMF, the safest Latin American country on the planet, I'm talking safety with regards to tourism, business, those kinds of things where you can go and walk around and have a nice vacation, or you want to start a business. It's no longer Costa Rica. It used to be. It's now Nicaragua. Nicaragua's a rule of law country. They don't mess around. Their borders are tight. They're really respectful of people. If you can benefit the country, they will obviously let you in. They've let billions and billions of dollars of direct foreign investment come into the country because of the strong laws, but also obviously because they're a growing nation. And so unlike parts of Central America where you still have pockets that have drug problems, you have pockets where there's even worse, crazy things happen. Nicaragua has virtually no crime. So it's a great place to go visit. It's a great place for a vacation. Cruise ships are coming in there now, 65, 70 cruise ships a year. The younger 40 generation, the adventurous, the thrill seeker wants to go to the top of volcanoes and all kinds of things, they're going. From a business point of view, it's a great place to start a business. From a second home location or a plan B or a bug out location, I've started several developments. I've built many, many homes. I've built subdivisions with my partner. We have a project right now at Popoyo, a fabulous place where you could just plunk yourself down on the most fertile soils that you've ever seen, grow yourself some vegetables, grow yourself whatever it is that you want to be able to enjoy, sit there very close to the beach, maybe a quarter of a mile to one of the world's most famous surf beaches, fabulous sands, a very affordable lifestyle, guys. You could literally live like a $10,000 a month income earner in the U.S. in Nicaragua for $1,000 a month. Everything's very affordable. So it's a spectacular place to visit, first of all. It's a great place to fall in love with. Something will hit you in your heart, and listen. Actually, I was telling someone today on the telephone that I was going to be on the show, and I said to myself, "Boy, I wonder whether I can get the two hosts to visit Nicaragua one day." Hope you guys will consider coming.
Sure.
Well, thank you for the invitation.
Well, it's just a matter of putting a date on the calendar. You asked me, Steve, to talk about the financial side of things, and I will briefly. This isn't meant to be an advertisement, but I think it's probably best for me to tell it like this. When I learned about timber for the first time myself, and I was in my early 40s then, and I was a little disenchanted with my CPA and my financial planning because they had me all in what the U.S. and maybe not just the U.S., but most maybe developed countries have when it comes to the investment formula, which is a 60-40 model, 60% in stocks, 40% in other things. And I don't know how that's worked out for the listeners, but it didn't work out very good for me over those cycles, especially the last two cycles, 2000 and 2008. So I'm not a financial planner. I'm not a financial expert or anything like that. I'm a farmer. I'm a land developer. But I can tell you that when I learned about timber first and I learned about agriculture, and I ended up finding a book by the name, and it's a great book for your listeners to go buy and look at and read, The Alternative Answer. It's by Bob Rice, The Alternative Answer. In fact, the subtitle was what caught my attention, and I picked the book up and read it cover to cover 3 times. The subtitle is The Non-Traditional Investments That Drive the World's Best Performing Portfolios. We all work hard for our money. But to think about the average 65-year-old American that's worked hard all their life, invested in the stock market or their 401ks or whatever, and have only $65,000, maybe $150,000 for their retirement, it's abysmal. But why is it, and we talk about timber a little bit, why is it that the billionaires, after they've become a billionaire and they've made it in other areas, why do they gravitate to timber? Why is it that they put most of their portfolio in timber? Why is it that Harvard and Yale and institutions and endowments put a lot of money in timber? Well, it's because it's a safe space. It doesn't have gyrating, gut-wrenching volatility. Mother Nature grows your money very slowly, but very predictably. And when you harvest a log, you produce lumber. And lumber is one of the most, core elements and core commodities since day one. They used to, guys would carve out a bow and arrow. I mean, it's never going away. They can't bring in enough substrates and various sort of plastics to mimic what wood can do. But from a financial aspect, timber's produced an average of 14% return on investment for the past 100 years. I mean, where can you find that? I didn't know about it. I studied it online. I invite you to study it online. I invite your audience to study online. So Ken and I started planting and started reforesting. And as you know, our business's focus is on people and planet and profit. So we're taking large parcels of land in Nicaragua that used to be forests 100 years ago, 200 years ago, that was clear cut down by Europe and America and other parts of the world under the Somoza regime. We're now creating new forests. At the same time, we're creating long-term, meaningful, impactful jobs for individuals, not weekend jobs or day jobs or day laborers, but jobs that last a lifetime so that men, women, and children can dream about saving, can dream about going on vacation, can have birthday presents, or can afford to go to school. In Nicaragua, it's free to go to school, but you can't go to school without shoes or a uniform. And so what we do together with our clients, our private owner clients, and that's what makes our company tick, is we work with high net worth individuals, people that have the accreditation status in the U.S. The SEC controls and guides various investment vehicles. We sell land with timber on it, with coconuts on it, to people that it fits their potential and future long-term, like you said, legacy financial goals. They're trying to protect their money from, we all know there has to be a reset. I think your audience understands there has to be a reset. So where do you go?
Absolutely, they absolutely get that.
Yeah, you got to go to gold, you got to go to metals, and that's called precious metals. Guess what? I coined my firm Precious Timber because timber is as precious as gold, and gold is as precious as timber.
And let me ask you this real quick, too. I mean, you guys are selling, let's say somebody wants a lot. You're actually selling plots of land, are you not?
I am, and the way we do it is on an individual basis, tailored to that individual, because everyone has a different goal or a different sort of set of things that they're trying to accomplish. Some people are more concerned about their retirement and they need income. That would be someone that would be fit perfectly into coconuts, because a coconut tree produces a nut every year. It's like an apple tree. Other people are concerned about their kids and their grandkids. You've got to get kids through college. College is getting more and more expensive. I know when I first became a dad, my CPA said you got to buy a 529. I bought a 529 plan. It was an absolute disaster. Thank God I planted some trees in the ground so that my daughter that's now 19 going to college, I can cut some trees down to pay for that education. So that, yes, we do have that. It's an opportunity that we hold dear to our heart. We're very, very giving when it comes to, having people visit, come see the plantations, come walk it, come shake the hands of the people that you're impacting. You're making a serious impact. It's called impact investing. There's a phrase that's been coined recently called impact investing. Impact investing quickly simply means you're deliberately making an impact on society, social concerns, environmental concerns, whilst you're also making a profit.
Let me just go here too. And obviously you're in the construction business. You build a lot of different buildings, etc. I mean, just per foot basis, what can a person build a home there for?
Well, there's some spectacular stuff going on. You can build U.S. style. You can build, and I'm talking the highest end. I mean, you go to the New York, you go to San Jose, you go to San Diego, you can see things that are spectacular on the beach that cost $20, $30, $40, $50 million, and they sit there right on the sand, or they sit there on a high cliff. I want you to picture in your mind right now tonight, Southern California. If you've ever been to Southern California and you've gone up and down that beautiful coastline, that Pacific Coast Highway, that's what Nicaragua looks like, but way, way, way more tropical. Beautiful bays, beautiful coves, nice little nooks and crannies, fabulous beaches. Of course, the water's much warmer. It's in the 80s. Unbelievable fishing, great snorkeling. And now you've got this fervent green tropical landscape that marches up from the ocean. And houses are starting to be popping along that coastline. It's like California was 130 years ago. And when I first got there was very few places. But today, there's a lot. There's a lot of choice. I mean, there's a 5-star resort that a lot of celebrities have already purchased into. People like Michael Douglas and Morgan Freeman. And that's a spectacular place that's really high-end. But, if you want a little peace and quiet and you want a little place out in the nooks and crannies where you got some privacy, you can find exceptionally well-priced deals. At Popoyo, for example, half-acre lots, just a quarter of a mile from the ocean, are selling anywhere from $60,000 on up, and we have always been able to buy well, so the lots that we sell are $39,500, so they're already priced at a point where when people are buying, they've in real estate you have to buy right. It's like anything. You make your profit the day you buy, not the day you sell. So whether someone's thinking about looking for a plan B or a bug-out location or just wants to get in on the next, listen, we all saw what happened to Singapore when it changed its mind and it said we're never going back to the way we used to operate. Nicaragua's done that. They're never going back to the way they used to operate. It's still early days. It's not pioneer days, but Nicaragua prices are 1/3 of Costa Rica and 1/2 of Panama and 1/10 of the U.S. The upside investment opportunity is stark. I tell people, if you never ever go, you'll never ever know. Go down. Yes, I understand the word Nicaragua might be a little alarming to a guy that's over 50, but I'm talking about today's Nicaragua, not Nicaragua in the 70s and the 80s. Germany used to be a place that you wouldn't go to. Japan used to be a place that you wouldn't go to. But you go there today. Get a
Probably not Germany anymore. Hey, Alex? Probably not Germany anymore.
I agree. I agree on Germany.
Yeah. I don't think, we want to go to little Mecca.
Oh, my gosh. It's such a shame. And it's not just Germany. It's even my home country of England. It's so sad. I love England. But where I was born and raised, you can't go there anymore.
Exactly. What about the canal? Are they going to put the canal through, in your opinion, through Lake Nicaragua?
My answer to that, Steve, is this. Listen, Nicaragua almost got the canal 110 years ago. In fact, it was the U.S. that took over the French project. It was a French project, and they killed 10,000 people because of malaria trying to put that canal through Panama. And when the Americans came in and said, this is a disastrous location. We're going to move it. We're going to move it to Nicaragua. They engineered and put a whole study, and they have all the plans for it. And Nicaragua almost got the canal. If it wasn't for de Lesseps, the engineer from France that actually was heading the program, getting a little bit ahead of himself, just as the vote was coming in from our House of Parliament, the House of Representatives here, on the island of Mauritius in the Caribbean, a volcano erupted, killed 20,000 people, and de Lesseps went up to Managua, saw that the postage stamp of Nicaragua in 1903 had a picture of a volcano on it, bought $7 worth of stamps, sent those $7 worth of stamps up to the House of Representatives here, and they voted no on Nicaragua because there was a few volcanoes. So, yes, the new canal is going to go. It is going to go in. There's a lot of stuff online and in the media, and especially the other side of the media. I'll call it the other side of the media that's always no, 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 no. Yes, we're 100 plus years on since the Panama Canal, and there's a lot more people, rightfully so, concerned about the planet. I'm very, planet. I embrace it, but it's because, in my opinion, it's only an opinion. I'm a human. You're a human. We all have opinions, and most of the time we think we're right when we're probably wrong. But if the individual that was doing the canal, instead of being an individual Chinese billionaire, if it was Elon Musk or if it was Richard Branson, there wouldn't be so many people saying, no, that can't happen. But this is an independent entrepreneur that happens to be Chinese that met with a Nicaraguan individual that told him the story that I just shared with you about the Panamanian Canal. And if it happens, and I think it will, 400,000 new jobs will occur for Nicaragua in a country of 6 million people. Nicaragua is the largest Central American country. And if they can get 400,000 new jobs, you want to see the price of real estate go up. The price of real estate is already booming because Nicaragua sits on the 6th largest freshwater aquifer on the planet, has the most fertile volcanic soils. We have a population that's going from 7 billion to 11 billion in the next 50 years. How are we going to feed them? If you like real estate, most people like traditional real estate. I'm more into farming and agricultural real estate. It's a lot safer. In the long term, it's much more profitable. But we've got to feed people, and you want to get to the place early. This is an opportunity that's like almost a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity that most people will miss because they can't get over what happened 30 years ago.
So, and you have been, excuse me, sorry for my voice, real quick, you have been to Belize. I think when we had our 90-minute conversation, I mean, I always get people, there are people who listen to this broadcast down there, say, you ought to come to Belize. I know people that lived there and have fled there. I'm not trying to badmouth anybody doing anything there, but, just your quick overview, Alex, because I want people to understand, you've been everywhere, whether in a backpack, and you really have. That's why I think you're a fascinating guy. The bottom line is that just compare it like Costa Rica. Now, everybody discovered Costa Rica. Pretty much everybody has now discovered Belize, and Belize isn't the most lovely place in the world. So will you just share your real overview real quick?
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, I like Belize. I like Panama. I like Costa Rica. I like Nicaragua. I like Guatemala. I like them all. But for me, Belize is dirty. It's tatty. The people are very nice. From a business perspective, this is just purely business, it's toasted. It's too expensive. It's overvalued, and it's not worth it. That's my opinion. Why would I go to Belize that, first of all, is in the hurricane belt? Nicaragua's below the hurricane belt, so is Costa Rica. I don't want to get whacked with a hurricane. And why would I want to pay 4 times as much for something that I can have the same experience with less bugs and no hurricanes just a few hundred miles south? So I don't get it. I don't get why people buy in Belize. Maybe it was a great deal 30 years ago, just like Costa Rica was a great deal 30 years ago. It's timing. Costa Rica I love, but everything that Costa Rica used to offer Americans and other expats that they no longer do, Nicaragua's just starting. And same with Panama. Panama, started after Costa Rica, and Panama's, one of my top 2 countries in Central America too. It's just that Panama, for me, it's too expensive. If I'm gonna look from a business perspective and an economics perspective, and I think about my kids, and I think about my legacy, and I think about helping other people, do I want to pay somebody that's already receiving $8 an hour that has a bad attitude? Do I want to give him a job, or do I want to give a guy a job that's just coming out of college, or I can help him go to college and pay him a little less, knowing that he's going to grow, he's going to maybe even become his own entrepreneur. You can teach him the wings, give him the wind underneath those wings, so that he can become much more successful than just being an employee. That's what I find most appealing about Nicaragua. These people are so darn grateful because they've only been voting since 1989. It's a young population. Almost 80% of the population is 39 years or younger.
It's amazing. Alex, I apologize. Well, I can't believe we're at the top of the hour already. What a massive amount of information. This just flew by. So much information. Steve and Alex Wilson. Steve, go ahead. We got about 20 seconds here, so take us out there.
20 seconds, ladies and gentlemen. I suggest you go to PreciousTimberProfits.com. You can click on the banner. And again, for those of you that have been thinking about relocating or having a backup plan, which both Alex and I talk about Plan B, it's timing. Everything in the world is timing. And as I've said, Doug, it's better to be, January 11th, 2017, hearing this, and let's say 2 or 3 years from now, who knows what everyone's going to do. Alex, thank you so much for sharing, and I got to tell you something. You have a wealth of information, and what I love is your experience leads the way, and your business acumen absolutely helps others to find their way. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you. I'm signing off, Doug. Obviously, you got another hour.
Yes,
I want to thank you for letting Alex and I come on, and I want to thank you for letting, obviously, Eric and I come on.
Sure.
And please, ladies and gentlemen, consider the offers, because not everybody wants to stay, not everybody wants to leave, but everybody wants to know how to make a return on what they're doing. Alex, good night, sir.
Good night. Thanks so much.
Thank you both. Gentlemen, thank you both. Again, solutions, answers, alternatives, and men of integrity, Steve Quayle and Alex Wilson.